Hey, I'm Elias. Welcome to my channel. So I often get asked, Elias, what kind of body mods do you use? You know, those sweet, sweet, sexy bods. What do you use? Well, while my bod is sexy, I just go to the gym. So what body mods do I use? And this is a question that comes up a lot. And so consider this video like a primer, an overview, or just anything really, because recently for BMS, I went through all of the body mods on Nexus, all the textures, all the meshes, everything there is, and I figured out what I'm going to use for BMS, the best mod list for Skyrim, and obviously we're going to be using the best of the best. So I'm going to talk about body mods, gonna explain a little bit about what they are, what they do, and then I'm going to go over what I picked for BMS and why I picked it. Before that though, this video is brought to you by BMS, my mod list. If you want the best modded Skyrim game, go check it out. By the time you're watching this, it'll probably be on Wabbajack, so it's an automated installer. A few clicks, just some time downloading your mods, and then boom, you have a perfectly modded game, exactly the same as mine. In the future, BMS is looking to support a wide variety of systems from low end to high tier, so chances are if you're watching this like say in 2022 and COVID's already over, you might want to check it out and see if your hardware is compatible. Alright, so first things first, when it comes to body mods, there's two things that we need to think about. That's the mesh, the model, the 3D model, and the texture, the thing that goes on the 3D model. So when it comes to the model, there's really three main models that we have to worry about, and that's the body model, that's the torso, all the way up to about the forearm, kind of halfway in between, and the legs as well to about just above the ankle. That is the main body. That's probably what you're thinking of. There's also the hands, which are from the forearm up. It connects to the body model, and the feet model, which connects to the body model as well, just with the legs. Pretty simple, not too much to it. Of course, there are two variations of this. There's the female body and the male body, which are anatomically different, go figure. In this video, I don't care about the nudity stuff, so there's no nudity in this video. Don't worry about that. If that's something you were concerned about, have no fear. This is a censored channel. We don't deal in non-family friendly stuff, except swearing. I do a lot of that sometimes. The textures are applied to all three of these models, namely the hands, the torso, the body, and the legs. There's also a head model as well, but those are different depending on the character. Obviously, each head is sculpted a little bit differently, and depending on the settings it has and whatnot, it looks differently for each NPC and the player, obviously. Anyway, so all those pieces have their textures applied individually, which is why if you look very closely in Skyrim, and previous Bethesda games actually had it way worse because they had lower resolution textures and stuff, you will see a seam on the arm, the neck, the legs, and yeah, it's there. It's always there. You're never going to get rid of it unless you cover it up with armor, clothing, or something like that. There is ways to alleviate it. Obviously, if you have models that connect better on the seams to the arms and the legs, if they're meant to go together, if the same 3D modeler, 3D artist modeled the body and the arms and they're meant to fit together, obviously the seam is going to be a bit less clear. If the texture was meant to go together as well, if you had the same artist making the texture, that'll also help. It's not really that big of a deal, otherwise you'd hear a lot more people complaining about it. If you've ever played Oblivion or Fallout New Vegas or Fallout 3, you've probably heard a lot of people complaining about neck seams, arm seams, leg seams, whatever. Fortunately on Skyrim, it's a lot harder to spot if you're doing things right. Another thing is that depending on the mod that you're using to modify your bodies, each race can have its own individual model for everything. That's why a lot of custom races out there have their own body models, and it's separate from every other NPC in the game, obviously. So if the mod that you're using modifies each individual race's body, then you might have some differences there. When it comes to me personally, I don't think that having a different shape for the body is all that important between the races, so I just like to keep things simple and I like to keep them all the same. That's how it is in the vanilla game, and I don't think that changing that really does too much to add to your game, if that makes any sense. It really doesn't. Unless you're just some weirdo that likes to look at all the minute differences in bodies or something. That's not me. Another thing is obviously textures. In the vanilla game, all the human races and the orc, I believe, have the same body textures for their hands. The body and the legs, and obviously the Khajiits and the Argonians have their own textures as well, so 3 different sets, I guess you could say. Most mod authors stick to that, but obviously you can have different textures. If somebody wants to put a different texture on like an orc than an imperial, they can absolutely do that. Now again, the texture doesn't necessarily mean what color it's going to look, the color it's going to be in game, because you can change that in the character creator, and obviously NPCs have their own shades of skin, but the underlying skin color is the same. The tint mapping could be different on those, so yeah. Usually the human races, the orcs, they're the same, and then you have the Khajiits and the Argonians. But again, if a mod author chooses to have different textures for certain races, they can absolutely do that, and you can do that if you want to, if you can modify it. The other thing obviously is that genders have different meshes. Obviously a man's body is shaped differently than a woman's body, so the textures need to be separate for the gender. So if you have an Argonian texture that's, say, different from an imperial texture, which if you're playing the game right, it should be, because that'd be weird. You would have a different Argonian female texture than you would an Argonian male texture. They have to be slightly different for account for the shape and the way that the polygons are positioned, obviously. The other thing that needs to be discussed is how armor kind of applies to the body. When armor piece is applied to the body, usually it hides the torso, but in certain specific cases, like say the hide armor, there's a version where you can see the chest. You can see the actual chest body and it's not actually covered up, right? So in that case, you need to have a separate model for the armor with the high poly body model that you're using underneath it. Same goes for stuff like gauntlets where you can see your hands, or like those glove gauntlets where you just have the fingers. If you have high poly fingers, obviously you need to have a mesh for that gauntlet, because it just replaces that part of the body with the mesh of the gauntlet. So you need to have a gauntlet that has high poly hands. Same with feet, like the prisoners' rags, I believe you might be able to see their feet. I can't remember off the top of my head, but if you like, I don't know, have a sandals mod or something, those custom sandals need to be patched. You need to go into NIF scope and actually put in your high poly feet to make that work. It's not really the biggest deal. If you don't, the game will still work fine. It's just for consistency's sake. Same with actually the actual appearance of armor. If you have armor in your game, which everybody should, and clothing as well, any clothing needs to be fitted to the body that you're wearing, to the body mod that you're using. One, to avoid clipping if there's like a part of the body that is still there, like the hands, so that the hands maybe don't clip and the legs don't clip. But also for consistency, obviously you don't want, if you have a body that like seriously like narrows down the hips of your female or whatever, not my personal thing, but I mean, you do you. If you have something like that and then you just use the standard vanilla armors that aren't shaped to the body, you're gonna have just a normal body with really big hips, or waist. I meant to say waist for that whole thing. Yeah, if you have a really thin waist, you're gonna need armor in that mod. You're gonna need armor and clothing meshes in that mod that fit the body, so you don't have a thick waistline, so you have a narrow cut waistline if that's what your body mod is doing, obviously. All right, that's about it. When it comes to like head stuff, it's all personal preference. There are mods that adjust facial features. I find them kind of unnecessary. What I do like to do is like replace eyebrows, because those are their own texture. I like to replace eye textures, like the actual iris and stuff as well. And if you replace those beard, obviously, and then hair textures, you can actually overhaul your characters to look really, really well without modifying their facial structure in any way. If you do want to modify their facial structure, you totally can. I just don't find that it's too necessary, and BMS might include those later. Probably not right now though. Anyway, you'll see. I'll show you some screenshots in game. You'll see what I'm talking about with the faces. They look completely overhauled with just hair changes, brows, and then eyes, and the face looks like completely modern. Obviously the skin textures are different. So let's talk about the mods that I'm using. The number one no-brainer mod that you're going to want to use if you're wanting to overhaul your body models is CBBE, Caliente's Beautiful Body Edition, I think. But there's that mod, which is really popular. It's a remesh of the body. It's really high poly. It does the body, the hands, the feet, obviously, and it does so for every race. Females only, unfortunately. It doesn't do males. That's the no-brainer mod, and the reason I say that and why you want to go with CBBE over UMP is because of the Outfit Studio, which you might have heard of. It basically allows you to import a body and modify it yourself to your own personal taste. You can modify the skin. There's like sliders for everything, like shoulder size, arm size, glute size, everything. I don't really care about that stuff. I like to keep the vanilla body, or the vanilla CBBE body, and it works just fine for me, but that option is there for you. The more important thing is actually the Outfit Studio, which allows you to take any outfit in the game, like armor or clothing or whatever, and actually shape it to the body so that there's no clipping, so it looks right and everything like that. That's a really, really important thing to have if you're going to be adding more armors to your game, because not all armors support a certain body type, although most do support CBBE. Another option, of course, that's out there is UNP. That's another popular body that has a bunch of armor mods that fit it. Again, I think CBBE is just more powerful and there's no reason to. At that point, it's really just a matter of personal taste, what figure you like and stuff. For female bodies, there's quite a few different meshes out there. When it comes to male bodies, on the other hand, that's where things are a bit more dun 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 sexist. Yes, that word. No, I'm just kidding. When it comes to male bodies, nobody in the modding community really cares about them, and there's one high poly remesh of the actual body. It doesn't do hands or feet. I forget who it's by, but most mods that modify the male body on Nexus will actually have that file in them for the remeshed male body, for the high poly male body, because I guess it's open to use. There's also a feet remodel from, I believe, SOS, and if you know what that mod is, great. If not, I'm not going to elaborate on that acronym any further. Anyway, if you know what it is, cool. I think the feet meshes are from SOS that most mod authors use as well in their male reworks as well. Hands, on the other hand, I don't think are touched by just about any mod out there, male hands that is, which is unfortunate, but that's the thing. I find that high poly body that most mod authors use in theirs, what's it called? I'm gonna find it. I don't know, because I don't actually have the mod that it originally came from. Mods like Tempered Skins obviously have that high poly body that you want. It's a no nude body, and so it works perfectly fine for me. Other options out there are Better Male Body, I think it's called, and SOS. Obviously, SOS is not on Nexus, it's on Lover's Lab, so that's a downside of SOS. On the other hand, I'm just fine with like the actual figure of the default body. I just find that it doesn't have very many polygons, which kind of makes it look jaggedy around the shoulders and stuff. Yeah, I'm quite happy with like the Tempered Skins body. I find that it works just fine. When it comes to textures, on the other hand, for females, I find that for the human and mer races, my favorite is Mature Skin. It goes up to 8K native resolution, so it's very high quality. 4K if you're looking to be a little more conservative. It looks realistic to me. It doesn't look fake. Like, obviously I'm going for realism in BMS, so I don't want like those perfect model skins that, you know, like don't have any blemishes or anything like that, where you can't see the pores. So these kinds of mods like Mature Skin I really like, because you can like see pores and small details on the skin, and I find them to look a little more realistic than those Barbie bodies, Barbie textures that a lot of people really like. Oh, and by the way, with the female textures, there's literally so many options out there. Beast races, let's talk about beast race textures. Few options for those, but again, not too many. So I guess let's start with the Argonian. So for the Argonian, for the male, I like the male draconic Argonian textures. There's also masculine Argonian male, but that's only in 2K, and I find that bodies really need 4K or higher, especially on modern displays. Hand textures, on the other hand, you can go a bit smaller. You can go 2K on the hands, 2K on the feet, heads even, you can go 2K. Yeah, you can go 4K on them, but it's kind of pointless because they're so small. And if you guys want to like see me make a video about how textures like translate to monitor resolution and stuff, just let me know in the comments and I can do that. Yeah, so the male draconic textures for Argonian, and then the feminine Argonian textures, I believe I like the striped, not the chameleon. There's a chameleon version and there's a striped version. I like the striped version. The chameleon is just a little too colorful for me. Again, you can kind of modify the singular color, but the way that the diffuse map on this texture works is that it has multiple colors on it that are kind of, it's weird. I don't like it. Khajiit, it's a little more simple. It's the masculine Khajiit textures and the feminine Khajiit textures. Both of them are in 4K, so they look great. I like the cheetah female texture, and I like the stripes. I think it's called the stripes male texture. That just about covers all the races for me. I don't think it's that prudent, like I said, to put different meshes on different races. I find that they all work well with the same body for each gender, obviously. Let's talk about face. So what I like to do with the face to completely reconstruct that is, so number one, you're gonna want to get the vanilla hair replacer mod. It's gonna replace the vanilla hairs in the game are just awful. The textures on them, terrible, and there's nothing you can really do to them to make them look better. It's the way the models are made. They're made like a single like 3D mass, I guess. Like think of it like a sphere that kind of goes on the head, that covers the head. A better way of doing that is little cards, which are kind of like flat 2D planes, and then you can kind of make the hair on it and stuff. Anyway, vanilla hair replacer replaces vanilla hairs with hair types that have been in the modding community. That's great. There's a few hairs in there that I'm not particularly a fan of. Please don't hurt me, comments, but most of them are terrific, and I think it's a great mod. Others are, let's just call it brows and beard, two different mods by the same mod author. It'll retexture those, make them look fantastic. For the eyes, you can literally do just about any mod out there. The eye textures are so small, they're like 128 by 128 in the vanilla game, I want to say. Maybe a little bigger, 256 by 256. Anyway, any mod out there will go like 512 by 512 on the eyeballs, and it'll look good. They're so small that it really doesn't matter. Improved eyes was really good, and natural eyes kind of had the best looking eyes in my opinion. I really had to like go texture by texture and look through all of them, but I'm sure there are others out there. There's like some interesting eyes that put like runes in your eyes and stuff if you're into that sort of thing. I'm not, but that's cool if you are. If you want to make like a really custom character or something, obviously you can grab one of those mods and plonk one of those eyes on your character and it'll look fantastic. Yeah, so obviously just eyeball mod, brows, beard, and vanilla hair replacer, and you're good to go on the face, and your faces will look like this in the video. If you really want my face mods that I like personally, I like Ordinary Women, I like Men of Winter, and I like RS Children Overhaul. I think those three just about get some of the more unique NPCs in the game a little bit visually better. Maybe not so much lore friendly, but I think they're about as lore friendly as you're gonna get. They're certainly not going to look like they're 15 or 16. And they're certainly not going to look like they're from an anime. So let's talk about Blackface for a minute. If you have a mod that edits the face in any way, chances are it'll either darken the face or make it completely black. Black if two mods are modifying the same facial geometry, and gray if you have one mod that's modifying existing facial geometry. Anyway, there's a really cool mod that came out that it removes the gray tinted face, which is again just the one mod editing one face. It'll turn it gray. It's called the Face Discoloration Fix. It'll get rid of the gray. Again, if you have two mods modifying the same face, you're still going to have to go into the records and figure that out by yourself. It is possible to fix manually, but the Face Discoloration Fix is just a mod that you drop into your load order and it'll fix any gray face. I find that with vanilla hair replacer, brows, and beards, the Face Discoloration Fix is about all you need. Yeah, it's pretty great. It's a great mod. It's an SKSE plugin. It's terrific, really. So as I'm looking through here, there's kind of one more thing. Obviously, the Argonian Horns, they need to have their own textures. There's a really cool mod for it. Let me just... called Argonian Improvements Horns. Terrific mod to kind of make the horns a little bit better. Not the best, but it does the job. There's not really a better solution out there. The Khajiit Hairs are another one that's kind of tricky. The cards don't really look right on the Khajiit like they do for like the human and mer races. Yeah, there's a mod out there for it. I don't know it very well, so I'm not going to say it here because I don't know if it's truly the best, but it looked pretty good to me. Another thing you want, the tint masks retextured. Those are like the body paints and stuff. Those are very, very low pixel count in the vanilla game. So if you are using something like CBBE, you're gonna want a tint mask retexture mod to make them higher poly so they don't look so pixelated. I believe CBBE has their own, but they look really bad. Also, you want Northern Scars, I believe. Yeah, so you want Northern Scars. That'll retexture the scars in the game, make them look really, really nice. Again, this is just kind of an overview of the mods that I'm using for BMS. This isn't the be-all and end-all, and it's certainly not future-proof. So if you're a real talented mod author, get out there and fix the male body, make them look a little better. Another thing, if you're a real talented texture artist, make a good Khajiit male texture that works well with the male feet mesh that's out there on the Nexus. That'll be really great. Currently, the male Khajiit texture that I'm using, the masculine Khajiit texture, it works, but if you have feet like with actual like 3D model feet, the vanilla game, they're just kind of like little pancakes, I guess. 3D model toes, that's what I meant to say. The masculine Khajiit texture will not look completely perfect around the toes. It'll have an area where it hasn't been textured, and it'll kind of look a little black and fuzzy. It's not the end of the world, obviously, but it's not supposed to be like that. So if you're a talented author, go out there and make some great looking textures for the Skyrim modding community, because that's what we need. Yeah, not the be all and end all. If this was confusing for you, go check out BMS. It's probably on Wabbajack as we speak. If not, I'm working on it to get it on Wabbajack as soon as possible, hopefully by sometime in early 2021. Graphics and visuals will be out soon, so keep in touch. And yeah, look forward to it. It's going to be a great mod list. It's going to take some time, but it's going to be amazing. Let me know if you have any questions on my Discord, link down below for that, or you can chat and hang out with people that know a lot about modding and myself. Anyway, I'll catch you in the next video.